When Journey released in 2012, it found an enormous audience. A minimalist, atmospheric platformer that set a bar for presentation and game design. It won a lot of awards. Apparently, it holds the Guinness World Record for most awards for an indie game at 118. One would think that would be impossible to follow up. After Journey, Matt Nava, one of the game's main artists, left that game company to form Giant Squid. Their first title, Abzu, was a swimming-focused take on a Journey-style game. In many ways, it is superior to Journey. Giant Squid's sophomore release was called The Pathless, and it applied an open, truly exploratory structure to the Giant Squid aesthetic. Their newest release, Sword of the Sea, reduced its scope back to a more linear, journey-evoking style of game. It is gorgeous, it's mechanically solid, and very fun to play. That said, I couldn't help but feel unattached to it. I found it less ambitious than The Pathless, and I wasn't personally so invested in what story was there in Abzu to really get excited when it became clear that Sword of the Sea is a direct sequel to that game. I enjoyed my time with it, it just didn't leave a lasting impression, and during the most linear parts of the game, it almost feels like it's playing itself. How fortuitous then that 2 days later, the release of Herdling from Zurich-based Okomotive was there to break my fall. This is also a Journey-like game, but it certainly does not play itself. Set in what appears to be the Andes Mountains, Herdling is a game about guiding a group of mystical buffalo called calicorn. I looked up the roots of that word and it basically means beautiful horn. All of these buffalo are lost on a strange sort of salmon run up to the highest mountain peak and need help making their way there. As one might expect, herding these critters takes constant player input. It takes a while to get the hang of the herding mechanics, even if players have herded in games before. For the most part, the herd functions as a unit, with one main calicorn as the fulcrum point. At all times, the player controls their young herder separately from the animals themselves. The main crux of controlling the herd is positioning the young one opposite the intended destination. In a way, it's almost like Buffalo Billiards, but it's also reminiscent of the way humans or animals in conflict circle one another. Anyone with an unruly pet can attest to the fact that this is the way of the animal kingdom. It works for cats, dogs, sheep, or even magical creatures. Once players get the hang of moving opposite the direction they want to go, controlling the herd goes smoothly. Players create flowers in front of the calicorn to show them where to go. Tapping the herd button places one bunch of flowers, but holding the button down lets the player create a path for the herd to follow. It's also possible to whistle and stop the herd, which becomes more and more necessary to keep them alive. When they do become injured, blood soaks through their fur and they start to limp. They can be fed blue fruits to fully heal, but there aren't always fruit bushes around, so players must be careful if they want to protect the herd. The calicorn seem to have a sort of symbiosis with the local flora. Different colored flowers affect the herd. Blue flowers give them fuel for a manual boost. Red flowers make boosting last longer. And yellow flowers, when fully collected, allow pigments to be transferred from the calicorn to stone paintings that seem to have an innate power. They reveal pathways and open doors. And doing so, it becomes clear just how special these animals are. When they eat the flowers, they take on their pigments. Players can also find headdresses and jewelry for their furry friends. Fully adorned and covered with pigments, they're almost reminiscent of Mexican alebrije. There's a very conscious effort to make the player care about these animals. They're very comforting looking and cute, which is half the battle, but the game also asks the player to name each stray they find on their trek into the foothills. This is not just for the hell of it. All of these cute creatures, big and small, can be hurt, and they can die. There is a setting to make them all invincible, But that defeats the whole purpose of the game. The fragility of life can be heartbreaking, ending in a moment. I lost dear little Waseba, and I didn't even understand where I went wrong until I watched the footage later. At the end of the game, I got the achievement for not losing any of the herd, but I had lost one. She followed us for the rest of the game, almost like she didn't know she was gone. And who knows? Maybe she really wasn't. I think the developers want even the most careful players to feel that heartbreak and the cost of negligence. After I lost Waseba, I was determined not to lose another, ever again. That right there is what sets this game apart from Journey and the Giant Squid games. The raw emotion, building from the earliest moments to an incredible finish. Games very often instill wonder, but they very infrequently foster love. When that happens, it needs to be recognized and appreciated. Thanks for watching. For more indie gaming coverage, you're definitely in the right place. Subscribe to Hackathon News today.